He thought it was just harmless Instagram DMs, a little flirtation during a brief breakup. Nothing serious. Nothing physical. Or so he thought. But one woman turned those private messages into threats. Threats that cost him over $60,000, shattered trust, and nearly destroyed his family. Every attempt to stop her failed, and every payment only made things worse. Just when he thought it was over, it exploded publicly, leaving him stunned, exposed, and questioning everything. This isn't just a celebrity scandal. It's a lesson in temptation, impulsive decisions, and how one moment of weakness can spiral completely out of control. Stay tuned, because you won't believe how far this went. Matt Barnes found himself tangled in a messy situation, one he openly admits was far wilder and more complicated than he ever expected. His story has become a cautionary tale, a reminder of just how quickly things can spiral out of control when temptation appears in the slightest window of vulnerability. At face value, it may seem like a simple case of DM flirtation gone wrong, but the deeper you go, the more it becomes a lesson about timing, decisions, and how one moment of weakness can snowball into a life-altering storm. At this point in his life, Matt was preparing to settle down. He was engaged to his fiancée, Anansa Sims, the mother of his child, and they were working on building a stable future together. Their relationship had its challenges, like many do, and during a rough patch they briefly separated. It was during this one-month breakup that a woman reached out to him on Instagram. In a moment of emotional vulnerability, he responded. According to Matt, what started as a casual conversation slowly became more flirtatious. However, he has always maintained that it never progressed beyond digital exchanges. They never met up in person, never went on a date, never even so much as shook hands. It was all online, all talk, and all during a moment when he wasn't officially together with his partner. When he and Anansa eventually reconciled, he chose to move forward and leave that brief digital flirtation behind. The woman who had messaged him seemed to disappear from the picture for a while. With the relationship healed, Matt and Anansa began focusing on their future, including a new opportunity, joining a reality show as a couple. The show documented parts of their life, their challenges, and their growth together. And while filming, they received unexpected but joyful news. They were expecting a baby. The pregnancy, however, came with risks. Because of Anansa's age, doctors considered it a high-risk pregnancy, which meant stress needed to be kept to an absolute minimum. Matt said he was fully committed to doing anything necessary to support her during that time. Filming continued, and the moment they decided to publicly announce the pregnancy on the show, everything seemed to be moving in a promising direction. But the day that announcement aired, everything changed. Almost immediately, Matt started receiving messages from unknown numbers, different phones, different area codes, different voices, yet all expressing the same intention. The woman he had messaged months earlier was threatening to expose him. The threats were vague at first, but unsettling. She claimed she had damaging information, though Matt insists there was nothing to expose because nothing ever happened in person. All they had were DMs he believed could not ruin him because, in his mind, they did not contain anything that crossed the line into infidelity once he and Anansa were back together. Still, the threatening messages kept coming. The woman hinted that she could twist things, manipulate narratives, or spin their brief online interaction into something more scandalous than it had been. Matt tried to brush it off, but it wore on him. At a time when he was trying to keep his household calm, protect his partner's emotional well-being, and prepare for a high-risk pregnancy, the pressure mounted daily. What should have been a joyous chapter slowly turned into an anxiety-filled ordeal. The part that frustrated Matt the most was the feeling of helplessness. He couldn't understand what exactly she intended to expose. In his words, they never hugged, never kissed, never met up. It was all messages exchanged during a period when he and Anansa weren't even together. To him, it felt like someone trying to monetize or weaponize a conversation that had already ended months ago. He believed there was no scandal, but pressure doesn't care about truth when someone is determined enough. As the messages escalated, the situation spiraled even further. Instead of stopping after he ignored her attempts, the woman intensified her threats. Different phone numbers appeared, each with sharper wording, more aggression, and more promise of public humiliation. Every day, he felt the weight of uncertainty grow heavier. Would she actually post something? Would she twist the story? Would it affect the pregnancy? Would it affect their family's reputation? These were the thoughts he wrestled with as the situation became increasingly unpredictable. This emotional strain took a toll, not just on Matt but on the environment around him. When someone is trying to navigate a delicate, high-pressure situation at home, The last thing they need is turmoil ignited by the past, especially turmoil tied to a moment of weakness. But that's exactly what he was dealing with. The timing could not have been worse. A new beginning disrupted by lingering shadows from a temporary separation. The irony, in Matt's view, was that he wasn't trying to hide anything. He believed the truth would protect him. But in the age of social media, screenshots, and viral drama, the truth can be overshadowed by someone determined to create chaos. His fear wasn't rooted in guilt, it was rooted in unpredictability. What would she say? What would people believe? How would it affect the people he cared about? In the end, the DM exchange that never left the digital world grew into a storm he could never have anticipated, proving how fragile peace can be when temptation finds the smallest opening. What began as a moment of emotional vulnerability turned into threats, stress, and chaos during one of the most important and sensitive times of his life. Matt explained that things took an even darker turn when the woman began threatening him, demanding money and insisting that if he didn't pay, she would release their DMs and try to ruin him publicly. So, believing he had no other choice, he started sending her money for almost a year while keeping occasional, shallow conversations with her just to keep her calm because she was unpredictable. After their baby was born in September, he continued paying her until early December, with the last payment sent on December 6th. But in January, she snapped again, issuing new threats, saying she would expose everything unless he did what she wanted. Tired of the pressure, Matt finally came clean to his ex, showing her the messages and proving they had never met in person. But by then the woman had already spiraled further, claiming she would destroy him and using whatever she had, including chopped, edited, and even AI-altered voice clips, to make her story look real. Matt later shared screenshots of payments as proof of the extortion, $5,000 sent in December, November, October, and September, adding up to $61,200 in total. But even after all that money, the woman still handed everything over to Tasha K for free, and Tasha K exposed it anyway, leaving Matt stunned that after spending over $60,000, she still went public. This led to even more fallout, with Matt questioning how Tasha K kept getting private voice notes, screenshots, and even plane ticket information, evidence that eventually caused his fiancée and the mother of his child to leave him, all because of one woman who wouldn't let go. The situation, as many commentators have pointed out, was not caused by any external interference or conspiracy. It was almost entirely a result of Matt Barnes' own actions and decisions. According to the coverage, while he was supposedly engaged to Anansa Sims, the mother of his child and the person he had publicly committed to, he engaged in flirtatious exchanges with another woman through Instagram DMs. The conversations, while initially digital and private, reportedly included questions and comments that crossed the line of what would be considered appropriate for someone in a committed relationship. When these messages eventually resurfaced in the public eye, Matt attempted to downplay their significance, labeling them as old messages exchanged during a period when he claimed he and Anansa were separated. He even went so far as to threaten legal action, insisting that he had never cheated and framing the exchanges as irrelevant to his current relationship. On the surface, it appeared to some as though he was trying to protect his reputation and assert that his actions were harmless, but the unfolding events suggested otherwise. Within just a few weeks, Anansa, who follows celebrity news and social media coverage closely, began to publicly post what many considered irrefutable evidence of Matt's behavior. This evidence was detailed and comprehensive, including itineraries, Uber ride logs, plane tickets, and receipts that demonstrated he had been flying various women, including individuals named Mika and Kisha, to meet him. Each piece of documentation created a clear paper trail, leaving little room for doubt about how careless and sloppy his actions had been. Rather than a vague accusation, this was a meticulously documented timeline of behavior, showing the frequency and scope of his interactions outside of his relationship. Anansa even went further, compiling a full timeline of every woman she discovered Matt had been entertaining while they were together, pairing the dates with concrete proof of flights, transactions, and other interactions before ultimately declaring that she was done with the situation and the relationship it reflected. Adding another layer of complexity, the narrative also touched on the emerging issue of deepfake AI voice manipulation. In recent years, some NBA players, including Eddie Curry, have spoken publicly about scams involving Instagram models who allegedly switch profiles and manipulate voice recordings using AI technology to distort conversations and incriminate targets. In Matt's case, he had reportedly sent a voice message to the woman he had been in contact with, and she allegedly altered it using AI so that it appeared he had said things he did not. This manipulation was then publicly circulated by Tasha K, amplifying the situation and giving it a level of virality that could not be ignored. The commentary highlighted that while this technological factor added intrigue, it did not absolve Matt of responsibility, because even without the AI alteration, there was a pattern of behavior and interactions that left him vulnerable to criticism. Critics also noted that Matt largely avoided addressing other significant receipts and documentation that his ex exposed, including evidence of additional trips, meetings, and interactions with women during the period of their relationship. The argument presented was straightforward. The reason he paid the woman repeatedly over time was because she had genuine leverage over him. Extortion only works when the target knows or believes that the claimant has damaging information. In other words, by engaging in behavior that created a tangible paper trail and by failing to keep his private actions truly private, Matt essentially allowed himself to be manipulated and exploited. The payments, while costly, did little to stop the flow of exposure, highlighting the risks of recklessness combined with digital documentation in an era dominated by social media. Ultimately, the commentary distilled the lesson down to a single, simple truth. Matt got played because of his recklessness and his willingness to act on impulses without fully considering the consequences. His story illustrates the dangers of mixing personal indiscretions with a hyper-connected, highly scrutinized social media world, particularly platforms like Instagram, where interactions can be captured, saved, and leveraged at any time. In this environment, even actions that may feel private can quickly become public, and attempts to control the narrative after the fact often fail when there is a clear record to support claims of wrongdoing. Matt's situation is a cautionary example, demonstrating that even brief lapses in judgment can escalate into major public scandals when combined with digital evidence, social media exposure, and opportunistic individuals ready to exploit vulnerabilities for attention or profit. In the end, the episode serves not just as a personal story about one individual but also as a broader lesson for anyone navigating the digital age. In an era where messages, emails, receipts, and social interactions can be stored and circulated indefinitely, the stakes of indiscretion are higher than ever. Reckless behavior, impulsive decision-making, and the failure to consider long-term consequences can lead to exposure, financial loss, and reputational damage. Matt Barnes' experience shows that no one is immune, and that navigating relationships in a connected, scrutinized, and highly performative digital landscape requires vigilance, foresight, and a willingness to act with integrity. It underscores the principle that when temptation presents itself, even in seemingly harmless ways, the decisions one makes can have far-reaching and sometimes catastrophic consequences, ultimately shaping public perception and personal outcomes in ways that are difficult, if not impossible, to fully control. People don't seem to understand how risky it is when someone jumps into your DMs. You never really know who's behind that account. And while it used to feel harmless or spontaneous, things are different when you're a millionaire and an easy target. Many of these women aren't interested in you at all. They are trying to get your money, expose you, and even after you pay them off, they'll still expose you. In Matt's case, a woman he barely knew, on top of being someone outside his own community, ended up using him for leverage, and instead of protecting himself, he dove right in. What he should have done was take a page out of Drake's playbook. Drake never responds to random DMs. Anything he does privately is carefully arranged through trusted people, with controlled environments, no phones, no surprises, and no chance of getting trapped. That's why nobody exposes him. He doesn't give them the opportunity. But when you're a grown man in your 40s, engaged, with a whole family watching, there comes a point where you have to stop being reckless. Instead, Matt was out here asking strangers intimate questions, flying people out, acting sloppy, and risking everything, all while giving the impression he wasn't thinking things through. It's the kind of behavior that embarrasses your partner once it goes public, and honestly, it's wild that he didn't expect consequences. If he really needed an outlet, he could have invested in some self-control, or, as the commentary jokes, self-clapization, because that alone would have saved him a whole lot of drama, money, and public humiliation. The point he emphasizes is one that resonates far beyond the specifics of any single celebrity scandal. Sometimes, the most important thing a person can do is exercise self-control, pause, and resist the temptation to chase trouble, especially online. In today's digital age, the opportunities to act impulsively are everywhere, and the consequences can be severe, yet many people fail to recognize just how easily small choices can escalate into larger problems. He explains that a lot of men, particularly those with resources or visibility, end up in precarious situations because they are chasing attention rather than thinking ahead. For example, there are safer ways to satisfy curiosity or personal desires, like exploring OnlyFans content in private or finding a partner who genuinely isn't preoccupied with Instagram clout. without opening oneself up to public scrutiny, emotional risk, or exploitation. He points out that a key mistake many men make is actively pursuing women who are primarily focused on gaining fame or boosting their social media presence. Instagram models and influencers often operate in a world where interactions are designed to attract attention, engagement, and ultimately, personal branding opportunities. When someone engages with these individuals without discretion, they are entering a space that is inherently performative, highly visible, and filled with potential traps. The moment they step into this arena, they risk creating situations that can be exploited for clout, publicity, or even financial gain. This is how many public figures, and even ordinary people, find themselves caught in cycles of exposure, embarrassment, and regret. Instead of following this common misstep, he advises that men should focus their attention on women who are not invested in social media fame, people who are genuinely private, grounded, and not seeking attention through digital platforms. In such relationships, privacy is naturally protected, interactions are authentic, and there is far less risk of having personal actions manipulated, broadcast, or misinterpreted. By keeping one's private life truly private and avoiding the pursuit of online validation, individuals can maintain control over their choices, avoid unnecessary drama, and safeguard their emotional well-being. In short, the key is not to eliminate desire or curiosity but to channel it in safe, respectful, and controlled ways that minimize exposure to harm. Despite these clear lessons, he observes, many men continue to run straight toward the same traps. Instead of exercising discretion or prioritizing privacy, they actively seek to impress people online, often chasing attention through direct messages, comments, or flashy gestures designed for social media recognition rather than real connection. In these situations, the desire to appear desirable or powerful often outweighs common sense, leading to moments of recklessness that can easily spiral out of control. The result is predictable. Once the private becomes public, once online flirtation becomes evidence, the fallout can be humiliating, stressful, and sometimes costly, financially, emotionally, and socially. He frames these behaviors not just as personal failures but as a reflection of a larger cultural challenge: the pressure to perform online, to gain attention, and to validate oneself through digital interaction. Social media. Finally, the episode concludes with a broader reflection on responsibility and awareness in the social media age. The host, Jackson, signs off after delivering this lesson, reminding viewers to stay vigilant and mindful of how they interact online. He encourages the audience to learn from the missteps of others, recognize the dangers of impulsive behavior, and make better choices in their own lives. In this way, the commentary serves both as entertainment and as a practical guide, a mix of cautionary advice, real-world examples, and insight into the complexities of maintaining privacy and control in a world dominated by digital exposure. The overarching message is clear: restraint, thoughtfulness, and careful decision-making can prevent many of the pitfalls that seem inevitable for those who chase attention recklessly online, and the consequences of ignoring this advice are often far more serious than most people anticipate.